What's up, jobbers, and welcome to the latest edition of the Jobber Knocker podcast. As always, is Nestlemania alongside for the ride is a man that loves camel toe, JC.
Yeah. No, I don't know about that one, Nestlemania, but you know what I will say is you got no goddamn personality. And that's where I'm going to start my shine this week, because you know what? I don't even care about anything else in this segment. Becky Lynch, Guthrie, this is for you, buddy, so pay attention. Becky Lynch looked directly at Zoe Stark and said, "You got no goddamn personality." And I said, "God damn it, Becky, this is the most you've ever been over with me, because that's the most truthful goddamn thing you ever said. Bravo, cha-ching, good night." I loved it. It was great. Again, I don't know or care what happened besides that, because once Becky Lynch said that, that's all I heard. That's all I cared about. And I smiled.
So my question to you is, did you think the part of her saying you only got over because somebody broke your nose, do you think that's overplayed?
No, because then I was like, that was the perfect retort. But I mean, she just got told that she had no personality, so she had to, go for something. But I always laugh when I hear that, because I know it makes like big fans of Becky really mad. And again, I have no issues with Becky, but I love trolling in general. So anytime that you can get people all hot and bothered, I kind of enjoyed it. But yeah, we don't have to talk about the rest of that segment. But I just wanted to say that was my JC Super Hot Fire line of the week. But we're going to move on to the actual shine now, because you know what, Nestlemania? When your music hits, this is what I do. I cover my ears. And we talk about this motherfucker every week and how good he is. But Dominic Mysterio, I don't like to get crazy with things, but he's one of the greatest sniveling shit little pussy heels we've ever had. Like, it's the little things like that. Like Cody Rhodes' music hits and he immediately just covers his ears. Like, you don't want to hear it. Like, that's just like stuff like that is just why he gets the reactions that he's getting, and why like they continue. Because eventually stuff with that, you wait for it to fizzle, but it doesn't, because this kid, I don't know what happened to him that day when he joined the Judgment Day. It just like everything just clicks for him, and everything he does every week, it's never the same way. Like, it's something simple every week, something new, and just like it's so good. And I mean, look at, would I love to have my boy Cody and my boy Dom in the Money in the Bank contract match? Of course. But you know what? If not, Dominic Mysterio has a major one-on-one pay-per-view match with the biggest fucking, probably the biggest fucking star in the company right now, not named Roman Reigns, at one of the major pay-per-views. Like, that is huge for him, man. And you know what? Again, I would have loved these guys in a ladder match, but them going one-on-one is a pretty big deal.
So I am curious, because you kind of skipped over the first part of that whole thing.
I don't even know what happened.
They had a presentation for a title.
I don't give a shit about that stuff.
Okay.
Whatever.
So
they finally did what we wanted. We'll get to that after.
So my question to you is, so Dom comes running out. They go from cheers to boos. Obviously, they have the promo where they go back and forth, and he extends the challenge, and she accepts, obviously, because it's easier for the woman to accept for the sniveling little shit. And then the Miz attacks. We have the Miz versus Cody. That was something that I assumed you were going to start off the show with, but you did not.
I was getting there.
But because
I take it you enjoyed that match.
I absolutely enjoyed that match. I'm just saying.
The Miz has been putting on banners. Here's the underrated thing about 2023. One of the most consistent in-ring performers in terms of quality matches in 2023 is the Miz. And if you want to fact check me, go back and watch his TV matches from this year, because this man is putting on bangers and he deserves a round of applause. And of course, it's Cody. We know that man's like the fucking best wrestler in the world. So come on.
Also a fun JC fact: The Miz, as of last night on television and pay-per-view, 0-25. 0.
Yeah.
0.
Yep. 0 wins, but 25 banners.
How do you do that, right? Like,
there, it's just, he's at that point where like it doesn't. He's gonna get the reaction he's gonna get because he's the Miz, and he's the perfect heel, and he's in that spot right now where we talk about all the time. He's the ultimate jobber to the stars. I think this is probably like his third or fourth loss to Cody since he's been back. We know they're close friends, but they also have good chemistry, and it makes sense because I mean, Cody's one of the guys that can stick it on the mic with the Miz, because there's not many who can, but. I mean, this segment into that match, like this was the shining lights of the week. Besides that one liner we talked about earlier, like this to me, like this was the creme de la creme of the past week in wrestling.
Our boy Dommy Fed says best crowd reaction of the night. I think there's something else that we should probably get into at some point, whether it's heaty or not. You did say something about that you wanted to talk about later in this program, about the crowd participation and something else in a different segment. But I will say, Dom versus Cody is a nice stopgap, like we talked about. However, there's something in here, and I was gonna say this for my hope now that I thought about it, but I think it's probably worth doing this right here now.
Okay.
What if we get to London and Cody Rhodes to London we go? I remember we did that in the Open. It was my favorite, to London. And Cody Rhodes loses to Dom because Brock Lesnar fucks him up.
Here's the thing. Like it's interesting because we know Dom doesn't really need wins. In fact, like losses almost kind of help him a little bit, but that isn't a bad thing because Cody has 2 L's since he's been back. The bullshit with Roman at Mania, and then with Brock with a broken freaking arm. So if he lost to Dom, like it would still be a very big deal. I think more than likely is that he picks up the win because I don't think Brock's going to fly all the way to London. But then again, I mean, look, this is like pulling on my heartstrings. These are my 2 guys in WWE right now, and it's not close. And they're going mano-a-mano. So I'm a winner either way because they just like one of them is going to win. But it is an interesting thing to think about because obviously we know we're headed back to Cody Brock at SummerSlam. And do they get back to that right away and let Dom get this win? Because then he can just brag about it and brag about it and brag about it, which again is a great thing for a heel. But I don't know if I'm putting my money on that yet. We still have a couple weeks of predictions to kind of like flesh it out, but I don't know if I can put my line in the sand right now.
Dommy says he reminds us all the time that Brock hasn't responded to his challenge. So again, keeping you fresh because we are onto something else with Dom. So I think that's what he's trying to do in the back of your mind. Remind yourself, okay, Brock's really the big mountain here. I'm just going to go to a little mountain here and beat Dom or lose, depending on how it's going to be. But it's fascinating to me because, like you said, as much as Baron Corbin hasn't really done anything with the retirement of Kurt Angle, he brings it up from time to time.
He brings it up constantly, including even on NXT when he's talking to people.
Kurt Angle lost, right? But then also you have Jericho saying he beat The Rock and Stone Cold in the sand. So I feel like this is the flag in the sand moment for Dom, where it could be like, I pinned
Cody Rhodes clean in the middle of that ring, and we know obviously it wouldn't be clean, but it just like it would work because the man already can't speak because of the heat he gets, but him trying to say that line, that he would be nuclear. So
yeah. All right, what else you got?
In terms of shine this week, we're just gonna go right here right now because I don't know if you saw this Nestlemania, but Maxine was wearing a singlet on Monday Night Raw this week. They are all into this gimmick here with Chad Gable now training her. We've completely ditched the model thing. She's now just kind of a valet for Otis and by default with Chad Gable as well in the Alpha Academy. And I freaking love it. I love that they're doing these training videos because she's trying to get ready because she has to deal with the crazy Viking Valhalla lady. But I mean, come on, what are we doing here? This is just Otis, I mean, the kids talk about Riz quite often. I don't know. You probably don't even know what that word means because you're like 90 years old. But that man Otis has got some Riz. First he had Mandy. Now he has Maxine. First of all, the MAs. Like he's got the Maz all figured out. And it's one of those things where a couple months ago it felt like We were breaking up the Alpha Academy, and I was excited for Gable's singles run, but I was also sad because I like this group together. But I just love the 180 they pulled, and they decided that, like, you know what? We may have had different plans, but this is working. We're going to go with it. Because I think it is. Because this is something that, like, you know, some people might look at it as a throwaway. But for someone like me who likes that little, like we call it all the time, like a palate cleanse in between more serious segments, this trio is perfect. And I loved it. And Maxine in a singlet, like, come on, what are we doing here? I never thought I'd see a day where I'd celebrate someone wearing a singlet.
Riz means the personality of someone that can
You looked it
up. Woo somebody very easily. So there you go.
Now you know.
I'm just saying.
Nestle, you're now hip.
Can I ask you where that's from?
Riz, it's just a term like the youngsters use. I don't know. I've heard it.
So here, quick little tidbit. This is when I know I'm old. Obviously, I know I'm old. I'm doing stuff at work, and the kids see me with a camera, and they're like, "Yo, can we get a flick?" And I was like,
"You're like what?"
I was like, "Get the fuck out of here!" No, it's just weird. It's just like, how fucking weird is it to hear that? Like, but whatever.
Back when you were a kid, you called flicks movies.
Probably Netflix originally, with the DVDs they send back. But no, there's whatever. It's Otis. So the singlet thing happened, and I laughed. I don't know if you saw the social media thing with her beforehand with the training.
Oh yeah, you think I miss any Maxine content? You're crazy.
So the thing with the arm drag was great. It was actually a pretty decent amateur arm drag. I did laugh because the singlet and like the bra, like it's just so like not.
The bra said shoes.
No, I know, it was just hilarious. It's perfect. The one thing that really upset me, and I mean, I guess it's for the greater good, but I wish I could pour one out for my my homies in the Maximum Male Models, because it seems like that's probably dead.
Yeah, I think that ship has sailed. I think it hasn't been a mistake that they haven't been on TV, and Maxine has fully embraced this gimmick. And you know what? Again, like I said, they might have other plans, and we might have thought like, well, maybe, but I think they just realized that sometimes gimmicks like that, they get damaged beyond repair, and they were never going to not be that. So it's like you pull the plug because something else is working, and you go with that instead.
I just would have loved to see them against Otis and Gable with Maxine just once. Just
it would have been a squash match.
No, but that's fine.
Never Maximum Male Models ever not been in a squash match. That's the problem.
No, I know. But I mean, they weren't really going to be anything anyway. But I think this was like the best shot they've had so far. That, you know what I mean? It's just a bummer. Anything else?
I guess we can talk about. It's weird because there's stuff that like not a lot of stuff that I like love this week. But there's not a lot of stuff that I dislike. But I am curious your take here with the Bloodline stuff on Friday night, where Heyman told Jey Uso he is the heir apparent to the Tribal Chief. He got the U.S. title shot, obviously, against Theory. Came up short with Pretty Deadly running in. Jimmy made the save. You have Solo running in, and then Jimmy accidentally kicking Jay or whatever. I am curious your take, because I still, as much as I've been critical of the Bloodline stuff for the obvious reasons, still, like, I think everyone's playing their parts well. And I think it's compelling enough where I care, but at the same time, I think it's still, I'm still not like fully like invested, but I think the Usos are doing their job. Is what I'm trying to say.
So I will say this much: as long as the focus isn't on Solo or Jimmy, and it's always on Jay, I'm okay with it, because I think Jay does a great job with the intensity. I believe Jey Uso, whether he's laughing or whether he's upset, or he's yelling and screaming, or even that segment where Sami Zayn was talking to him about, think with your heart, and, my best times were with you, all that stuff. Like, that was a legit promo where I went like, that is the most believable thing on this program right now. And I really do believe that. However, the longer they went with it throughout the night, I felt like, okay, we're beating a dead horse. Okay, we're beating a dead horse. Okay, we're getting closer. Oh, nope, there's another fucking segment. And then we get to the fucking match, and then it's all this fucking gaga. I did appreciate Pretty Deadly being in there to foil the rest. And then, of course, like you said, everything else came out. But I think the idea of dangling the carrot of him being the next Tribal Chief is ridiculous, because I think they're so close in age that, like, logistically and logically, they would all retire relatively in the same time. So it just seems odd to me. Like, I get it from a story standpoint, but you also have to think to yourself, like, it would make more sense if Solo was the next Tribal Chief, because he's so much younger than all of them. He's like 10 years younger or something like that.
I think the retort to that would be is that obviously like we're a lot of discussion, like real life discussion, is Roman going to Hollywood at
Mhm.
some point in the near future, whereas like that's never probably going to be an option for Jay. And I mean, there's no sign of them slowing down. So I think it's more like that because yeah, like obviously the age is a factor, but I think it's also we know that this is bullshit from Heyman.
Right, of course.
Obviously, there it's a ploy, but I that's why for me, like it's one of those things like I don't dislike it, but I also don't know how much I like it, even beyond all the stuff that I've been saying since WrestleMania. That's like beside the point in terms of like this. It's just like I feel like for something that last year they hit all the right notes and into this year, it's just like obviously since what I still call a fuck up at WrestleMania, since then, week to week, I don't think it doesn't feel like they've hit as well as they did last year, which again, last year it seemed like they hit this storyline at a historic rate. And obviously that is the exception. You know what I mean? So, but I don't know. It's something, it's, there's just something that's not all the way there for me yet, as much as I'm enjoying, like you mentioned, Jay Uso's work, because I think he's been really good.
I just think you're clearly looking at it through a specific set of goggles because you are so pissed off from what happened at WrestleMania.
No, but I
But
think separate from that, because this is like more of the Uso story, but it just felt like the Jimmy thing that where it happened, like obviously the stuff has been building, but I don't know, it feels like there's been a disconnect, and maybe it's because Roman's still not there every week to deal with it, and these guys just kind of got to carry it all on their own, and you obviously have Heyman like doing his best to do it. It just I don't know, there's something that this story is lacking a little bit.
I think this was the first week where I looked at it and thought, okay, like this was very interesting, but I don't necessarily believe that they executed it to their best of their abilities. Like there were little things that just happened that, again, I'm sure it's an A effort that clearly could have been an A plus. But like at the very end of the promo, and again, you may not see this because I look at it things differently than everybody else. But if you watch Paul Heyman, it was like he already had his phone here after the thing, and he was like, "I'm sorry, Jay," and he goes, "Call Roman Reigns." And then they went to a replay, and he had his phone in a different angle. You could see that the phone wasn't clearly calling anybody. And then he said it again. He went, "Call Roman Reigns." It was almost like he didn't think he got it picked up the first time,
Yeah.
which it's just stuff like that to be like, you've done that before. You've never missed that shot. And it's just the whole thing of like, I think you can forgive your tag partner and your brother a lot quicker than you can forgive the tribal chief and you can forgive Solo. So I don't necessarily believe, like, I get what they're trying to do, but unless they're going to have Jay special guest referee a match between Roman and Jimmy to figure out where he lies, then I don't know what we're going to do. Like, I just feel like something has to give here in terms of like an actual physical altercation. Otherwise, if we're just going to keep talking all the time, which again has been their best bet, but Roman Reigns isn't going to wrestle on SmackDown probably ever again, even though
Yeah,
he's
he'll
the
do it
SmackDown champion.
maybe like twice a year he'll be involved in the 6 man in the main event or something like that.
I don't know. It just bothers me to an extent of like now I'm looking at it like, okay, it's still good, it's still great,
Yeah.
but it's just I still get to the point where I go, this can all happen without Roman Reigns holding that championship. Like,
Yeah, and I think we're on the same page. We're just attacking it like in different ways. But yeah, and like I said, like that overarching thing, like that is still the biggest problem. But it's just like I don't know, and maybe the stink has just like seeped its way into everything now. But it just I don't know. The reason why I hesitated is because I didn't want to put it in the heat because I still think overall it was one of the stronger things of this week. It was one of the things you're going to remember. It's still one of the biggest stories. You know what I mean? And it's still some of the most important characters, especially on SmackDown. So I'm like, it's still shine. It just like it's I don't know. It's tough. It's a tough position, but I think like in terms of looking what I had left for shine, I'm like, it's probably like this is like the line, you know what it's kind of like it should be higher in the shine than it is, but it's not.
I don't know if we'll ever get to a point where we're going to be excited about something bloodline again. Because even if we get to a point where, I mean, like realistically, take the long road with me for a second, right? Let's say they lose the Usos, both of them, right, to the bloodline being gone. So now it's just Heyman and Solo and Roman, and then eventually we get to a part where Solo breaks off, right? And then we get to a part where it's just Heyman and Reigns, and then by the time we get to WrestleMania, he finally loses to Cody, and Heyman's no longer there, and it's just complete and utter broken nonsense.
So I think the Solo thing has to be correlated with Cody because Solo was such an intricate piece to last year in WrestleMania and how that played out that I think Cody's approach, assuming they do that rematch again at WrestleMania, is that he realized because last year he was like, me against the world, I'll take them all, it doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah. I think it's more of like the Solo thing is going to have to happen as part of the storyline of Roman and Cody, where there's going to be a moment where Roman expects Solo to do something, and that's when he turns his back, and it benefits Cody, whether it's actually at WrestleMania or leading up, and then whether it's Roman goes into WrestleMania without anyone, or like you said, as he leaves, he has nothing. So I do think that one's correlated, but yeah, I think the Usos thing, like this feels like the summer story, and then after that, like maybe that's the end of it, at least for now, but who knows? Roman did say the fucking bottom of the third, so God only knows at this point.
That fucking bothers you, doesn't it? It really does.
I mean, it bothers all of us, doesn't it? That's a scary proposition, man.
Bottom of the third, that makes me think that we're a 9-year story, but it's like, all right, whatever. Yeah. It's tough, but whatever. All right, let's move on. I'm going to go through some stuff really quickly that I think was fun, but not necessarily something we can really talk about here. Obviously, Santos and Ali, a lot of fun for wrestling's sake. Clearly, we have a winner. Moving on down the line here, I chuckle every time I see mid-chin. That's just, it is what it is. I guess that's pretty much everything on SmackDown that made me excited. Over on Raw, I will say this much. I really enjoyed, and this is probably another part we can teeter on here, Becky Lynch versus Chelsea Green. And I put out a tweet that some people agree with and some people don't. Chelsea Green is a better wrestler than Becky Lynch, but it doesn't matter because we're in the WWE.
Can you explain what you mean by that? Because I think people see that and they obviously, like, there's reactions to it when you read it, but obviously I have an idea of what you're getting at, but can you explain it to the audience? Because that is a pretty just bold proclamation without context.
So I don't think it's going to be what you think, but I'm going to try to accentuate what I mean. So when I watched that match, so I think a lot of it came out of the Zoe Stark promo where I was like, okay, Becky made her fucking point. Here comes Chelsea. But the minute Chelsea fucking came out, she made Becky better. She made Zoe better. She made Sonya better just from her reactions in a promo. And then she had a match, which honestly, here's what I love about this entire thing. She has a three-dimensional character. She knows that she can't win. She complains and she does it over again. The crowd will boo her even louder and it works. But what I talk about when it becomes she's a better wrestler, in the ring, she makes the moves realistic. And here's the most important point for me. She sells her ass off. She gets whipped into those barricades. She has great facials. She does everything that she's supposed to do in order to become a complete person. And when I watched that match, I went, it looked like Becky being a fucking been there all-star doing batting practice, fucking just swinging because she had to swing versus somebody who was trying to fucking just get in the roster. You know what I mean?
Taking advantage of an opportunity against the top star.
And it was somebody that was putting it into a first gear versus somebody that was in their fourth or fifth gear, really working their ass off. And it was very apparent when you're watching it. And Becky Lynch can get there. She doesn't have to. That's the issue that I have. So when I watched that match, it was very apparent to me that that woman deserves some props because Chelsea Green has a complete character. She's better in the ring because there's things that she doesn't do and does do that fit her character. Becky kind of gets to a point now where she can do whatever the fuck she wants. And with that caveat comes a little bit more exposure of what she's not great at. Whether it's a certain move, whether it's she just looks oafy, or maybe she doesn't hit that buckle or that rope as hard as she used to. So I feel like there is a gear shift there once you've made it that you don't really give it the old college try. So I just think that in terms of wrestling belt to belt, Chelsea Green has surpassed Becky Lynch. But like I said, we're in the WWE. It doesn't matter. And so for anybody giving me shit about that, chill the fuck out. What I meant was Becky Lynch is in the right place because that's where she belongs, on top in the sports entertainment business, but she can't go to an AEW, a New Japan, a Ring of Honor and work the way she used to because she just is a rodeo clown who got lucky with her face getting busted open. So there you go.
I love how you explained it, but then you still went all in with the last few sentences there. You know what? I mean, look, I'm a fan of Chelsea Green. I have been. I loved her from the minute she got back because, like you said, her character is one of the easiest characters to understand when you watch her, and everything she does. I'd see the comment. And everything she does fits exactly what she's trying to tell you, who and what she is at all times. There's no faking it. And like you said, yeah, in the rain, it's just like, you know me, like I'm a big fan of the reactions that people give. Like those, that's why like I always tend to lean to like the certain heels and stuff, because to be a great heel, you really need to do your best work. So sometimes without actually speaking, whether it's through your moves, through your facials, all that stuff. And I mean, honestly, we talk about like there's always the debates about the rehires. It's not even fucking a close that she's been the best rehire, because she was someone that never even got a chance the first time. She literally got called up, started something, then she was out the door. She never even got a chance to prove it. And she's come back with that chip in her shoulder being, you know what? From the second she was on our screen since she returned, she has been maximizing every millisecond of her time, and it hasn't wavered. And she has mastered this character. She has found a niche. She works well with no matter who they put her backstage with, in the ring with. She has been a slam dunk home run and is by far the best of the rehires. And you know what? I know our boy Danny's a hater of Chelsea Green too, but you got to give her a props because she's been great. This whole Becky Lynch thing, I understand what you're saying and I agree with some of it, but at the same time, I'm not going to sign off on it completely because, you know, I get it. But I mean, I'm glad that Chelsea got her props because she's deserving.
So full disclosure, Danny doesn't like Chelsea. I don't like Becky, but I can see the value of Becky Lynch. I don't think Danny can see the value of Chelsea Green.
I think he does. I think it's just also like, you know, Chelsea is doing her job when the majority of people she gets under their skin, because that's what the best heels do. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things like, for me, like I appreciate those people, those characters quicker than most people do. Same thing with like Grayson Waller and like Corbin when he was in NXT. Like these are people I loved instantly, but I also understand just because I love them instantly means it's going to take other people time to appreciate them because they're so goddamn annoying.
So Danny says he has been into Chelsea Green, but not as much, obviously, as Becky, everything else, because he's not stupid. So, air quotes, not stupid. Apparently, I'm stupid, is what he's going to say.
I mean, look it. I just like, what? You have no personality and you're stupid. What else can we say?
Yeah, what else can we say? I'm gonna climb a ladder and watch your match for 3 segments. It's whatever. It you know, it is what it is. Should we get heaty?
Let's do it.
Okay. Get him off my TV, get him off my TV, get him off my TV. Can I start with something that I think is just, I didn't expect it to be heat, and then I noticed something when I was looking at my notes.
Okay, I'm curious.
Okay, so you'll sense a theme the minute I start. So, mid-chin, jobber alert.
Mm-hmm.
Baron Corbin versus Butch, jobber
Mm-hmm.
alert.
Mm-hmm.
Io and Shotzi, jobber alert.
Mm-hmm.
Go over to Raw. We have more jobber alerts, but I don't even think it mattered. But that doesn't go. But the Money in the Bank.
There's 2 parallels with what you mentioned. They weren't even just Money in the Bank matches, Nestle. They were the SmackDown Money in the Bank matches.
Exactly. So this is why I don't understand why we have qualifiers if we're all having jobber alerts for these things in the first place. Like, I know that we're stretched for time on SmackDown. It is what it is.
How many weeks do we have left till the pay-per-view?
I feel like there's 3.
I think it's 2 weeks from Sunday. So I feel like they could have budgeted this better, which I think is your overall point, is that you could have spread these matches out more and given everyone a chance to shine and make it feel special.
Right.
I understand.
Exactly. And I think that was the hardest part watching these things. It was just like, I noticed it. I think it was even last week too. I could go back to my notes, but it was like, it just didn't make any sense to me. Like Zelina won in a jobber alert. I'm looking at it now. And it was just like, what the fuck? Like other people like Ricochet got their whatevers, but like, and Nakamura, right. But it was just like, but that's what I'm starting to notice. Is
you're making the case for SmackDown to be 3 hours like Nick Khan wants.
I'll fast forward through commercials and entrances all day. So it's fine. It doesn't matter to me. I'll start at 9:30 like I do with Raw and catch up by the main event like I do every Monday. It's easy. It's super easy and it's way more efficient.
All right, just the amount of recaps, like that's the thing I always notice, like when I'm trying to like watch when I'm watching through these shows after. It's just like it had stopped being this way where they had like kind of dialed back and like focused more on like actually like new stuff. But I remember like 2 years ago, I came on this podcast every week. It started my heat with the recaps, but the last couple weeks, man, they have gotten back to that. And I think on SmackDown, it's just like, we have to recap these Raw storylines. It's like, no, you don't. No, you don't. You're on SmackDown. Just like on Raw every week, we have to get a fucking Bloodline update. No, we don't. No, we don't. Just advertise what's on SmackDown. Tell us to watch it. Like it's obnoxious because I don't think people are going out of the way being like, well, I'm only going to watch Raw. So, no, wow, they put this cool recap. Maybe I should watch SmackDown. That's not in reality. All you're doing is wasting time when you have a full roster of people deserving to be on TV.
100% agree. And it bothers me because I feel like they could go out of their way to do something new and they haven't. So, no, Corey just popped in and said, did I miss any Rikishi talk? We have not talked about Rikishi and his man thong. Do not worry. Hashtag Stinkface Gate. I can't talk. I'm tired. No, we're not talking about Stinkface. He is not going to stink the tribal chief.
I did, and on a related term, though, I did earlier in the show teach Nestle what Riz means.
He did teach
because Rikishi with that ass, that man got some Riz.
See, that sounds more like jizz, but that's whatever. It is what it is. Because it's Riz, you see. So,
boy.
Yeah. You want a term killed? You call this guy right here. I'll just fucking kill it.
Yeah, you're the great musher.
All right, moving on. Going back to SmackDown very quickly. We had a 6-man tag. God damn it, was it long? It was long. It needed to not be long. You don't remember this?
No, I honestly half the time with 6-man tags now. I fast forward those things so fast. I don't even think I write them down.
It was Sheamus and Fight Night versus the Pretty Deadly and Austin Theory. Yeah. No, was it Austin Theory? No, it was.
No, that was 2 weeks ago.
I'm sorry. You know what?
Austin Theory was in the main event, buddy.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just looked at my notes. I apologize. I am completely looking at the wrong night. That's my fault. Going back to SmackDown very specifically. So we didn't get to this point about the camel toe. We've gotten this far with Ronda Rousey not talking about her camel toe. However, this is what I want to know. Are you excited about this unification match? Do you think it's going to be a big deal? And do you think Ronda Rousey and Shayna will be going to NXT to defend those titles?
No, to the last question. We'll start there. Because that's the problem. See, when reporters ask a player a question, they only like you're not going to remember all of it. You gotta like budget your questions.
Right, here we go.
I'm not an athlete. I'm a professional media professional. I said professional twice because I'm so professional, but it's really me stalling to try to remember what you said. Do I think that this match will be a big deal? It's a big deal to me because Isla Dawn's in it, and Isla Dawn is in the Maxine Carrot category where I fucking care a lot. But no, seriously, it's something that we knew was probably coming. It's because the fact that literally all the NXT women's tag teams either got split up or called up. So we knew that division was going to die. They still had these titles. So it was like, okay, are we going to have 2 sets of titles on 2 different brands? Because that seems like overkill. Or are we going to combine them? And they're obviously going to combine them. The timing makes sense because Money in the Bank is in overseas, which means the SmackDown before, which this match will take place, is overseas. Alba and Isla are from overseas. So it's a good way to make them easily baby faces over there against the big baddies, Ronda and Shayna, who are going to win and ruin their hopes and dreams in their hometown. So do I love that it kind of feels like it's happening quick? No, but I think as we saw with the titles the last few weeks, they are addressing them so we can move on, because once we get past that, there's only one thing left to fix, and that is whatever's going on with the fucking thing Sammy and KO are carrying around.
So to give Bertsky context, if you didn't check out Twitter or any type of interview with Ronda Rousey, she said the reason she keeps pulling down her tights is she is in an immense fear of having camel toe and showing up on any type of sexual or Twitter's, any type of website with her camel toe hanging out. And I just burst out laughing when I saw it because it was the only thing this week that was in my brain that, like, I know Bret Hart used to pull up his fucking knee pads and it always pissed me off as a kid. Like, fucking stop with your knee pads, Bret. Go fucking win the match.
We literally have always criticized Ronda since she's been a wrestler of how she's constantly adjusting herself. Yeah. Now we know why, because the woman doesn't want to call attention to her camel toe. But guess what you do by talking about it? Now all of us are going to be looking.
Instead of Joe Camel Toe, we're gonna have to be talking about something else. Your mother, by the way, is here. We're talking about camel toe and a laugh emoji. This woman is. Oh boy. God bless. Oh boy. God bless. Of course, your mother would come in right as we're talking about that.
I mean, it's the name of the episode, so it's kind of hard to hide from it.
I know. I asked you for permission if you wanted to label
the baddest. Even I think the moral of the story is even the baddest woman on the planet has insecurities. It's just might not be what you think. It's actually about camel toe.
All right, can we move on?
Well, you asked me all those questions about the women's tag title
Yes.
picture, and you never
Yes.
gave your opinion. So I want to hear your opinion, I
Okay,
guess.
so I would love to see Isla Dawn and Alba Fire win. I don't think that's even
It's not
humanly
gonna happen.
possible, because I love them. I think they're fantastic. However, I think that we have to get this over with. The only caveat that I'm upset about is that if you're really going to do this, you're going to get rid of them. They have to be on all three brands. We know that's not going to happen. We
I don't give a
know.
shit about NXT. There's no tag teams down there anymore. It's you want to be a women's tag team, you come to the main roster.
So here's my other question to you. So I'll slow down so I don't have to ask you so many, so you don't have to sound like, yeah, I'm just here so I don't get fined. Are you okay with one set of tag titles for the women and one set of tag titles for the men?
It was something that I think we've talked about over the years. I'm definitely okay with the woman because I think having two really makes it difficult to have feuds, and it's just especially on SmackDown, it's already so loaded. And the men's is a little interesting though, because I think if you have champions like KO and Sammy, it works with them bouncing, but it's just one of those things. It's like Raw's the longer show, but I think you're at the point with these two divisions. I mean, look what we have on SmackDown this week. We're having a fatal 5-way gauntlet match or whatever. It's like there are teams, but again, it comes down to the timing with all these titles. But I wouldn't be mad if the men's titles were split. I wouldn't. But at the same time, I don't mind them sticking with the one set of belts for the short term, if you know what I mean. When I like for a little while, and then go from there, because I do think like say Imperium ends up winning them. My boy Ludwig, the most handsome man on the planet, and Giovanni Vinci, who's injured. Do I want them traveling show to show? They're not as charismatic, obviously, as KO and Sammy, so it's a little different story. But so I think in the short term, I'm okay with it. Long term, they might have to split them again.
I just don't think we can live in a world, and I think it's hypocritical, where you say, oh, there's not enough women tag teams from NXT and for the main roster, so we're going to get one set versus there's a set of tag titles in NXT.
There's always been one set of women's tag titles. They literally just added one in NXT because they had so many tag teams. Well, guess what, Adam? You know how many women's tag teams are currently in NXT? As many times as you've been right in your life. 0.
That's not true. I've been right quite often, actually. Just telling you. Yep. Just telling you. You actually agreed with me on a lot of stuff earlier, so you have just...
Those are opinions, not facts, though.
Oh, I talk facts. What are you talking about? Plenty of facts in this program. Absolutely. We're in different octaves. That's fine. Moving on to things that are not necessarily fun, but they have to be addressed. SmackDown's just kind of like all over the place for me. I don't really enjoy SmackDown right now, but we've talked about the Bloodline. Over on Raw, we didn't talk about this, but it seems more apparent to me, and I think it's something we need to address here. They are really going full court press with this Damian Priest thing, and it's inevitable. Like, especially, and here's the other thing that I wanted to address. If you went backstage with the Finn Balor and JD McDonough thing, where he said, basically, don't worry about your size, don't worry about your friends, make sure you make an impact. And then JD muttered under his breath, he said, maybe you should take your own advice, which made me think, oh, Jesus Christ, they're all going to turn on either one of things. The whole Judgment Day is going to turn on Damian Priest, or JD McDonough is going to fucking club him, and then they're going to take him out, and then he's just babyface. But like we talked about last week, I just think this is the wrong thing. Just the wrong thing across the board, because I feel like, yes, he's popular, but he's not popular. He's not more popular than Dom in terms of booing. He's not more popular than Rhea, because Rhea's amazing. He's not more popular because Finn's got abs for days and will always be more over than everybody else in that fucking program. And JD McDonough will definitely not be over. And it drives me insane, because it just feels like that's the piece that makes them legit to me.
So I think I have a different perspective on it this week, because it's the thing we haven't talked about yet with the Finn Seth segment. I think all of this is obviously interconnected, because I think like last week and like right now, we're looking at it at the Damian Priest point of view. But I think what we really have to look at it to really try to figure out what's going on here is like through the mind of kind of like what's going on here with Finn Balor, because you kind of alluded to it there, like JD telling him to take his own advice. And we obviously know that obviously Priest answered the open challenge and Finn tried to help them, but we know deep down that like Finn is probably full of jealousy for Priest and wanted that opportunity. And obviously we saw by him going out there with Seth, him trying to show that. And he pretty much throughout the crowd singing through it, he was trying to say like about this chip he's had on his shoulder, because he already beat Seth Rollins. He beat him for that Universal title the first time, but Seth injured him, so Finn never really got the chance to run with it. And since then, his career is just kind of like, it hasn't been what he probably thinks it could have been. Like, he went back down to NXT at some point, had a good run, but he's come back up. And I mean, what was it, a year and a half ago? He was in a position where like Miz is, or in theory was for a while, where you're losing all the time to the top stars. You're doing a great job. You're in a good spot, but you're losing. And it's this Judgment Day, like him working himself in. It was kind of like he kind of brought it to the next level. And I think so. Yes, I agree. We obviously agree about the Priest thing, and that still could be part of it. But I think the part that I'm more focused on and more intrigued by is that I want to see what this does to Finn as a character, because I think we can agree, like, Finn's awesome. I'm always going to love Finn no matter what. I'm a Finn guy. But there's been something missing ever since he got injured from the Universal thing. He's never really been able to get it fully back. So, and I'm like, this is the most character development we've had with Finn Balor pretty much since then. So I'm intrigued by it. If we want to get into that segment, we can in a minute, but I just think like the Priest thing, I think all of this stuff is interconnected, because I truly think the crux of this story is what is going on in Finn's mind. And I think Priest is he's just one of the victims of what's going on in Finn's mind.
So yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think you're 100% right. However, there's that backstage segment where he goes, like, I hope you win Money in the Bank. Well, I hope you become champion. And he's like, but you would never cash in on me. Of course not. No, of course not. And it's just like, I don't think Seth Rollins is going to lose. But that made me think right out of the gate that Damian Priest is winning this thing. And that made me nervous, because I really wanted to see LA Knight win.
I think because when we talked about this last week with Money in the Bank, and if you're looking, the men's field is complete. If we're talking about it freely, there's like 2.5 people that could win it. It's obviously the front runners, it's LA Knight and Priest, but I do think Nakamura is the dark horse. He'd be the next one up, because I think you could do it. And I think the things you've done with him is, even though they just kind of gave him his shit back as a babyface, like, he could use that thing and turn heel. It could work, even though I've been against him as a world champion. He's the only one in third, because it's just like, okay, I love Ricochet. That shit probably ain't happening. Butch, like, that came out of absolutely nowhere. And who's the other person in the match? Santos. Yeah, exactly. The guy who's been losing forever, which, yeah. So it just, I think they had to do that with Priest, because I think they really have to set up all different scenarios. So it isn't just so obvious that if they do give us LA Knight like we want, that we don't see it coming as much. So that's why I didn't mind that. And I think it's also, you're looking at the Seth Finn match, like, oh, Seth just won the title, he's going to win no problem. But if you dangle the carrot about Priest possibly cashing in on them, it makes everything a little more intriguing.
So we didn't get to the point. I think this is probably the good time, since we're circling it. We might as well talk about it. People are concerned on the Twitter, obviously the 1%ers of Twitter, saying poor Finn, that the crowd was drowning him out and that he couldn't get his point across and it made him look bad and all that other stuff. I have a particular take on it, but I know that you were ready to go. You had one in the chamber, so I will lay out and let you talk about it.
Well, so because it's obviously Ray said something that got the discussion flowing, because I had seen the stuff on Twitter too. And here's the thing, like, I'll address that first, because that's not really the critiques I have of the segment, is that I didn't mind that for Finn, because at the end of the day, like, Finn's supposed to be a heel. He's supposed to be disliked. The crowd literally did to him what they've been doing to Dom for months, and we've been celebrating it. It just feels different, because obviously, like, Finn was trying to have an emotional moment, an important promo, and I understand that. And we understand that as a crowd, and that's why people on the internet who saw that are upset. But it's like, and Ray kind of alluded to this, where it's like, that's kind of what they wanted. And I tend to agree, because everything I just talked about this being interconnected, is it's about what's going on in here about Finn. And one way to really get a guy to kind of lose control and just kind of lose control of himself is for things like this to happen, because he's trying to put himself out there emotionally and no one wants to hear it and it's denying him. And that's how you can set up something like a great moment. So in terms of that stuff, I completely disagree with people are saying on Twitter. The problem I had with this segment is, for the most part, I found it really boring, because for God's sakes, it took way too fucking long to happen. And yes, part of it is the pausing because of the crowd, but it just like, it's one of those things where I don't know if they're affected or if they actually budgeted, but there's no way they probably budgeted for it to go that long, but they lost me by the end of it. And I don't know if it was that Seth needed to step in sooner or whatever happened, because they got the point across with Finn, and I understood that, but then it just kept going. So that is more my criticism with the segment. In terms of the other stuff, I'm with Ray and against the internet on that one.
So it was the first time for me, it might be because I wanted to see both of them talk, that this was the first time where I actually thought to myself that the crowd singing Seth Rollins' song is getting kind of in the neighborhood of a what chant for me.
I don't disagree.
And I think that either he has to somehow cut it off after a certain point, or we're going to get to a point where he's like, I'm the best version of myself. And then we're stuck with the song that everybody loves. And it's a whole thing. Again, it's great. Everybody wants to sing along. But are we going to be relegated to backstage segments with Seth Rollins just to get our point across now? That's my thought, because anytime you have an in-ring Seth Rollins promo, you run the risk of blowing up your entire show in production because of the crowd overtaking it because of that song being so catchy. And that's basically how I feel about it from a production standpoint, because obviously we run into timing issues and other things like that. And then we see all these other things, like all these other chances we want with our CD and, G storylines that are happening on Monday Night Raw that either get cut or we have a jobber alert for a fucking qualifier. Like, there's stuff like that ends up getting cut. And I just feel like we're getting close. We're getting close where I am going, not that I'm going to be the one not singing if I ever go, but it's just so hard because I feel like it's going to eventually stop being fun, and it's going to be a detriment to Seth Rollins going forward somehow, some way, even just minimal, just a little minimal.
It is definitely, it's obviously like not the Bobby Roode thing, but it's like along those lines where the Son has become so over that obviously Seth is over too. That's, I think, the biggest difference between him and Bobby, and why it like eventually fell off for him is they're on different levels. Sorry, Dom. But I don't like what you said there is something that I've been kind of thinking, but I've also like haven't wanted to say it out loud because I thought it was maybe a me issue. Again, because the whole title kind of sits over Seth's reign too. But at the same time, it's like I had really gotten into the heel Seth character, and obviously this happens in wrestling. It becomes so popular, you go a certain way. But I think definitely that's why when I think I say that the segment was too long is why I said maybe you point the finger at Seth. It's just because sometimes in those situations, because we see Cody do it, you see a lot of other top babyfaces, we've seen Cena do it throughout the years, is you get such a reaction at some point. You need to cut the reaction to move on, because as like you said, if we're in person, we're sitting that fucking sun, we're loving it. I'm a couple deep, I'm having a great old time. But as a viewer of your week-to-week product, it can definitely set up some fatigue. And I think they do run the risk of that. So I think that's where your criticism of it and my criticism of the segment going on way too long are aligned. For this particular segment, I'm a little more forgiving of the singing because I think it did work out with what they were trying to do with Finn.
Danny says, shitting on Becky Lynch, moaning about Seth, give it a couple weeks and Nestle will be moaning about their kid. Listen, Daniel, with one N, I will tell you this much, my friend. I will never, ever say anything bad about a kid, especially their kid, because she's as cute as a button. And she's an innocent bystander. Now, if you bring your kid on TV, sure. Then I'll probably say something. But until she's on television, I will not say anything. There you go. All right. There's the honest truth about it. And I'm curious, as a Seth homer, as we say in the United States, Danny, a honk, if you will, because I know we had to explain to you what a honk was. Because you have about that. you have the kings or queens English over there. And we talk like, we just talk like gas station attendants over here in the United States, apparently. Do you think that this is going to be a detriment with the song singing for your television experience? Because I certainly do. And I would imagine if you could put that aside for a second, I'm assuming you're sitting there going, come on, get to the point like we are. So that's all I'm saying. That's all.
Yeah, I think there's a reason why this landed in the heat. And again, like I think our boy Ray's point was that it just this is kind of what they're going for. And again, I agree for this segment, but I still think long term, I do share some of your sentiments. I just hadn't said out loud because I wasn't so sure if it was a me problem or if it was an everyone problem. And you having the same idea makes me feel a little better about it.
You hear that? Misery loves company, folks.
Yeah, I'm not miserable. I'm pretty happy.
Me too. Anyway, moving on. Anything else? Let me see.
We haven't talked about the new titles, which again, This is what we wanted. But my notes literally say Asuka gets a piss belt of her own. They did the names, as we kind of alluded to a month ago, where I think the SmackDown one is aligned with Roman Reigns, where it's the undisputed WWE Women's Championship. And then Rhea's new title, which is the Cody Constellation knockoff, is called the Women's World Championship. So there's at least a little bit of consistency now.
So I do have, again, nitpicking at best is what I do.
Shocker.
It's weird that the word undisputed's on it. And the other thing that I noticed about Seth and Rhea's title is it doesn't say like, it says like WWE with the big fucking globe and it says world champion. It doesn't say heavyweight on either of them, which I find a little odd considering they made a big fucking deal about Seth Rollins being the world heavyweight champion. It's just odd to me. It's like if you have a WWE world champion, what's the difference between that and the WWE undisputed champion? Like, again,
It's
just
it
just
is
fix
slight,
it.
but I
Just
think
fix
I
it.
don't. I understand why they took out the word heavyweight because it isn't a heavyweight title; it's a world championship. Because non-heavyweights can win the title. There's no weight classes in WWE anymore since the cruiserweight is gone. But I just like it's one of those things when they unveiled Rhea's title and I looked at it. But first of all, I love white straps on anything, so those always look super clean to me. But every time I see that fucking design, I see Cody's smiling face on it. It is literally a Cody consolation prize for me when I see it, and I will never be able to take that title seriously. That is 100% a me problem, and because we fucking made the jokes about it on this podcast problem. But it's just one of those. It's like it's a lot all at once to have to try to digest all this. Again, they addressed the stuff we had finally, so I think I'm happy about that. But it's going to take me a while to really be comfortable with these new designs.
The other thing I'm curious about, and I don't know if this is going to be a real thing or not. I guess we'll find out in the draft next year. Do you think they'll have those titles always be on the same show? Or will they actually let the World Heavyweight Championship for the women stay somewhere and the other one travel to the other show? Or is it like they have to be the same show?
Who knows?
Because that's
one
hard.
of those things. It's they address the problem for this year. If they want to fucking draft people to different shows next year, they'll figure it out then. Maybe they'll hand off the titles again. Like it just.
Well, there's no reason to hand off anymore with those championships, which is
there isn't. But you also bring up the good point that SmackDown has the undisputed WWE championships and Raw has the World Championships. So
right. Is a universe bigger than a world? Absolutely.
Oh, fuck.
So there we go.
I've always hated that word being part of it. But it makes more sense than undisputed because it's not fucking undisputed anymore.
No, of course not.
It's actually, in fact, very disputed because you have equal champions allegedly on the other shows.
Allegedly. Very much.
In the men's, it's allegedly. The women's, they're equal in my eyes.
That's fair. I'll give you that. I'll give you that very much. But again, not a huge fan. Again, I think we're going to be more concerned with the tag titles because at least the mid-card titles can be whatever they want to be.
Get those fucking ugly-ass period striped belts off my TV. I've always fucking hated those red belted titles. I've hated them, so I'd be fine if they fucking made them one.
Red Fruit Loops. Oh, no, we call it
the nickel and dime titles. Is that what we used to call them?
Yeah. The 10-cent champs. Yeah, exactly. That's the dimes. How many dimes? All right. Anyway, moving on. This is going on way too long. I apologize. I think that's pretty much it. Would you like to get hopeful?
Yep. You go first.
Because you don't have one?
I do not have one.
Oh my God, Joshua. That's fine. I wanted to make sure that I said this because it's definitely something that I'm interested in. JD McDonough and Finn Balor. I have a tendency to think here that I want to see them as a tag team. I don't know why. It just feels like if Finn Balor isn't going to win that championship, Finn Balor and JD McDonough, I feel like here's the thing that I want to see. Finn Balor is up here. Like he's fucking amazing. JD McDonough is probably around here. They're close, but not in the same category. I do think, however, that JD McDonough has a better character than Finn Balor. And I think that's where JD McDonough can help elevate and make Finn Balor more well-rounded. Finn Balor can help hide some of JD's deficiencies, not necessarily height, but what people are going to take seriously, what he does. And I think together, if they look similar, they dress similar, I think they can absolutely look like a fantastic tag team. And that's what I'm hoping for here, because I think that it would absolutely work. The lineage is there. The backstory is there. And I think them as a tag team, I just don't see WWE changing KO and Sammy championship wise. Like a real team's going to beat them. I just don't. There's something about it viscerally feels like they don't take real tag teams seriously. So another non-tag team has to beat the non-tag team. So I feel like they would be right in line with it. I mean, I want Pretty Deadly to win in the worst fucking way possible, but it feels like that would be a fucking. I would be pretty stoked to see JD on my television more with Finn Balor in those tag teams. So there's my hope.
You know how I feel about JD. That's my boy. So I'm all for more JD. My hope, which I came up with about a week ago, and I definitely did not come up with while you were talking, is about the Women's Money in the Bank match, because we talked about something off there before the show, Nestlemania, and I asked you a question because Raquel wrestled Shayna Baszler on Raw this week, and I asked him, like, was that a qualifying match? I didn't realize it because there's one spot left in the women's. Raquel is someone who makes sense, but apparently it wasn't. It was just a match where they did a thing, and I think Shayna won or something. I don't know.
Yeah, why would Shayna be in the Money in the Bank if she's a champion? Like, I don't know, whatever.
She's a fucking tag champ. It doesn't matter. You can be in Money in the Bank.
I don't know. I just whatever.
That match was weird to me, but it got me thinking. It's like, why is that spot vacant? There's obviously a lot of reasons. It's like, but one reason that I really like is like maybe it's setting up some sort of surprise here. You know, they could go with like, oh, they're obviously overseas. They could go with a Nikki Cross or a Piper Niven. Is she going back to her name? Or
Piper Niven. I forgot about her.
Piper Niven, someone like that, or like Tegan Knox. You mentioned my girl. But you know what, Nestlemania? I'm thinking bigger because don't necessarily need a Brit to fill that last spot. And I have two people in mind. And one of them, which one do I want to go with? Because you know what? I am very partial to Pirates. So that would be kind of cool if she was in it. But you know what, Nestlemania? I'm tossing my treasure chest aside for someone who gets the treasure chest every day through the goddamn internet. And I want to hear Mandy. She enters that match. She wins that match. And she becomes Miss Money in the Bank. It'd be a great way to bring her back, to mend the fence, get her back in the main roster, put her on top of the world. She's someone who could carry around that briefcase believably for a long time. And the next time a babyface champion gets out of line, it's going to get real toxic for that bitch because Mandy Rose will be a main roster world champion. Hashtag JC knows. Hashtag JC's hopes come true. Hashtag JC thought that one out big time all week.
Is that like in case of emergency, break glass and Mandy? Is that what it is?
So I knew that when you were talking, BS. I know I came up with a hope earlier in the week about the Women's Money in the Bank, but I couldn't remember what it was. So then I'm like, well, you know what? I'm pretty good at bullshit. And there are two women that I want back in this company that aren't there yet. I can make this work. It was just, I have to decide when I start talking which one's going to come out of my mouth. And the plan was Kairi Sane. But you know what? Always in the shine, always in our hopes, always in our dreams. Mandy Rose, come back to us.
True or false? You are a member of her OnlyFans or her fan team or whatever. Okay.
I'm not, sadly.
Too much for you subscription wise every month?
I don't have an OnlyFans account, but I would love to support her, but she's a millionaire, so I don't really feel like I need to. I feel like she'd rather have me save my money.
Is that so? I doubt that highly.
I mean,
I doubt that very much highly.
She doesn't need that money.
Okay. All right. Oh, look at this. Otis, look at this one. Danny says Mandy versus Maxine with an Otis on the pole match. And Bertsky's calling cap.
Do you even know what that means, Nestlemania?
I think it's bullshit. Like he's calling bullshit.
Well, you know what? Man, Maxine versus Mandy with Otis on a pole. I would love to be on that pole. I would love to be that prize for a match between those two.
Are you really the prize, though, in that situation? I think the women are the prize.
I mean, hey, you know what? If Otis can be a prize, I most certainly can be a prize.
I don't know what it is about that man. I don't know. I don't get it. It's the caterpillar.
He is a big hunk of meat.
Who probably never mind. I'm not going to say it. I'm moving on. Let's go to your comeback. Since you boing,
go ahead. Charlotte Flair, Queen is back. Of course, she's got my comeback. I'm out of breath and I'm out of water. So Christ, it's fucking hot in here. When I close my door, I get no ventilation and it gets hot. But Charlotte Flair, the Queen, she's a stud, and I kind of love the way she did this because she just kind of like marched out. She's like, "What's up, Asuka? Give me my title," because that's what Charlotte does. Charlotte doesn't wait in no goddamn lines, baby. Charlotte don't wait in line. Charlotte cuts the line. It's good to have the Queen back in our lives. It makes the SmackDown, whatever the fuck is this thing called now? The Undisputed Women's Championship. It makes it a lot more interesting now with her in the picture. So Charlotte Flair, welcome back. You get my comeback.
I can hear and feel the doctor He's just boiling because he hates the shoveler so much. I can feel it.
He hates Ronda and he hates Charlotte. Doc is scared of powerful women.
Well, he lives with one, I'm sure. Probably two of them if you really count. So he just hates powerful women. Anywho, I will say this much. Can we talk about this before my comeback? She kept pointing at the Raw title though when she was like, I'm like, what are you doing? What are you fucking doing? Like,
no one told her they were unveiling new
no,
championships.
it was just so weird. She's like, and I'm gonna win this championship, and I wanted to be like, over there. That's where it is, you dumb shit. But it was just like, oh my god, she's like she is so good at so many things. It's just like every once in a while she's gonna fuck up, but like it's just like it just made me like she didn't do it once. I felt like she did it like 3 or 4 times. And you're just like, will somebody fucking tell her, please? It's fine, whatever. Anyway, my comeback is to go over your head because I think Bianca Belair is doing her best stuff since losing the championship.
No,
And
she just lost it. So
hold on, let me get it there. It's been like at least 2 weeks, so she's been doing good stuff.
She's doing her best work when she's appeared once on TV.
Shh. Let me talk. Grown-ups are talking. Anyway, so she comes in and cuts a promo about like, hey, I want my rematch. And Adam Baldy Pierce, which by the way, this KO segment when the Baldy showed up was hysterical. Not that guy. And then so Pierce is like, okay, if you stay out of it, I'll give you your rematch. And of course, the line crosser comes out with her shovel and decides to do whatever. And then next week, they're having their fucking match. It seems like somehow, some way, Bianca's rip shit. And all I thought about was, man, if this is what's going to send her over the fucking edge, is this going to make her heel? I'm in for it. Like, she did such a great job being fucking John Cena, the fucking superhero babyface, excuse me, where she did so good for so long, had such great matches, and was just a fucking standard for that division for so fucking long, and it's just awesome for 3 years doing amazing work. And now I'm like, I've seen enough, no pun intended. And now I want to see what else she's got, because she was actually pretty good in NXT, being like, girl, you don't go here. And that's where I started to pay attention a little bit with her. And we always said, like, once she figured out the fucking wrestling part, there was no stopping her. And then she figured out the fucking wrestling part. So to me, it's like that character switch. If that gear shift happens and she's a heel and she gets that, like, that Mean Girls feeling, I think that she can just keep going to a different level. And I'm in, because honestly, we're headed to Charlotte versus Bianca somehow. I hope they don't blow their load at SummerSlam. But
that's a WrestleMania match if I've ever heard one.
I understand and I agree with you, but I feel like they try very hard to pull the wool over all of our eyes to make us feel like SummerSlam is WrestleMania summer, and it's not, because it's like, fucking hey, we just did it 3-4 months ago. What are you doing to us? So I feel like let's save it for WrestleMania, because that's a fucking awesome thing to do here. So that's my comeback.
All right, so we go to the big old finish now.
Big old finish.
There's a 5-way gauntlet match on SmackDown. Who you got?
I forgot the tag teams, but I'm just going to pick the Street Profits.
Yeah, I will too, because I also forgot the tag teams.
I know it's Pretty Deadly, Vikings, Street Profits.
Sheamus and Ridge, I think, are
Ridge, the Fridge, yeah. And then somebody else. LWO.
Yeah, I was going to say the Santos twins.
Yeah. Jesus.
I don't know if there's anything else on SmackDown, because like I said, I was not prepared, but we have a Rollins Open Challenge on Raw, which Braun Breaker called him out last week on NXT. And breaking news into the program from our boy Danny is Braun is officially answering Seth's Open Challenge on Raw, so that'll be interesting. There we also have Nakamura taking on Bronson Reed and Shinsuke Nakamura, with the Ricochet thing looming over their head. And the biggest news of the week, Logan Paul returns.
So we didn't get to talk about this, but I got really upset that they're fighting over Bronson Reed instead of fucking like 2 weeks out from Money in the Bank.
Hey, it's something about the big men on Raw. Between Otis and Bronson Reed, everyone wants a piece.
So apparently it's not the Open Challenge. It's on NXT and not Raw. So let's clarify that.
Christ, Seth. He's just gonna he has a match set up with Fit at Money in the Bank. He's gonna a useless match then on Raw that we know he's gonna win. Then he's gonna do a useless match on fucking Tuesday. We know he's gonna win. Good God.
But is it for the championship with Rollins?
Who the fuck knows? It's
Rollins and Braun might just be a match. That's what I would say.
It's too much.
Ooh. What if Braun Breaker somehow gets involved in the Money in the Bank match and wins? Like if
Well,
someone,
the men's match is full.
no, I know, but like let's say somebody slips on a banana peel, gets injured, whatever, and they just decide, oh, let's interject Braun Breaker. Are you
The
excited? Or are you
Braun
just
thing's weird because they just had the draft and obviously didn't get drafted because they wanted to do the mellow match. But it's also at the point it's like there's not much for him to do at NXT, so they're obviously teasing his main roster stuff. But we just had all the call-ups in the last month trying to get their footing, and now you're gonna stick another one. It's a weird situation.
I mean, it is for the title, says Daniel. So
I just like it's it's so tough when they, because this is shit AEW does all the time. It's like, we got a pay-per-view match where the champion's fighting this, but he's gonna have an open challenge this week where we know it's useless and you're just gonna like it because you're gonna go, this is awesome. I don't know.
why does every avid fan that says this is awesome have a lisp when you do that?
Because I just like how you always sound like that. You know?
No, that's your complainer voice, because you used to do that with everybody that complained. Not just me.
you.
No. We know where that voice started.
I'm Adam, and I'm not getting my way.
Oh, we need hit times on this.
Well,
Where's
so that the voice
that's where it started.
Whatever, the this is awesome voice is my nerdy virgin wrestling fan chant. Then I guess.
So you're saying someone else is a nerdy virgin, is what you're telling me?
They're all nerdy virgins.
Ay. Oh.
This is awesome.
Fight forever. That's my favorite. Fight forever. It's like, no,
you getting AEW party?
The
Mario Party knockoff.
I'm telling you right now. I am strongly considering buying Fight Forever. I really am, just to put it on my Switch.
I just can't get over how fucking terrible Eddie Kingston's face.
No, they switched it. They fixed it. They did fix it.
Because I remember when I saw that on I was like, oh my god, they've been working on this game for like 6 years, and that's what fucking Eddie Kingston looks like.
I know, he looked like Uncle Fester at a fucking Black Sabbath concert. It was awful. Yeah, I know, I get you. But no, they fixed it. They definitely fixed it. Okay, I think you're going to enjoy it more than you think. I really do.
I mean, I give them credit for trying it. I don't know if I'll be getting it. If I did I'd probably get it for the Switch too, because I don't think it's be valuable to play it on like a PS5 because I'm sure the graphics are not going to be good enough.
No, that's the way I look at it. And I don't care about the downloadable content. Who the fuck wants to be Danhausen? Like, okay.
I mean, hey.
Danhausen. Yeah, okay.
I forgot about him. Why isn't he on TV anymore? This is bullshit.
He hurt himself again.
It doesn't matter. He can still be there. He doesn't wrestle anyway, so he can show up injured. Speaking of showing up injured, AEW does have a show this week. Sammy Guevara returns. He's not injured, but he's having a baby. So that was
he's not having a baby. His wife is having a baby. He's
having a baby. They created it together, and now they're having one
together. They're
having a baby together. She's not having it with someone else. She's having it with him. We have some matches that you're gonna love this week, including an 8-man tag where the Mogul Embassy takes on Darby Allin, Stain, Orange Cassidy, and Keith Lee, who is graying by the day. We don't even need to mention that match. We also have the Blackpool Cuckpack, whatever club, taking on the Hain Bucks, the Young Pages, whatever they want to call them. I'm sure you don't care about that either. So I'll continue to move on to the TNT Championship match between Wardlow and Jake Hager, because that's what we need, is a title match for someone that hasn't been on TV in 6 months. Then speaking of random fucking contenders, she did win a number 1 contender match on Rampage, and I do love her. Sky Blue's getting a shot at Toni Storm because that's believable. And then in the main event, we have an AEW World Championship Eliminator match where we're going to blow the MJF Adam Cole match in the main event when it's not for the title. How'd I do? Did I make you excited for that fucking bag of shit on Wednesday?
It is amazing to me that somebody thinks that's a good card.
It's like a fucking awful card.
It is beyond reproach.
I wasn't even planning on taking a shit on that card when I was previewing it, but I started to read off all the matches to you, and I'm like, this is shit, so he doesn't need to respond. Oh, this is also shit. He doesn't need to respond. And then next thing I know, I'm done the whole fucking card. So garbage. Rampage last week was better than this.
It is amazing to me that somebody thinks a 6-man tag or an 8-man tag is going to fucking be now granted, the Hung Bucks versus BCC, I'm sure everybody will fucking talk about it, and fucking somebody will stab themselves in the fucking way to the ring.
Awesome.
But like, god damn it. Like, so here's the thing. I want AEW to have fantastic stuff. And
agree on that.
And it's just like I tune in and I'm just thinking to myself, like the MJF Adam Cole thing was great, like last week, with the exception of the steroid line. I thought it was fantastic. And the reason why Dom and I agree on this is because you're calling attention to their drug wellness policy, which it's fine. But like to me, it seems like a little messy. However, that's just the way we are in this situation we live in 2023. It's like shit talk and trash talk, no matter how low hanging fruit it is, seems to get everybody fucking boned up for it. But I don't like eliminator matches. I think that's fucking stupid because the whole point was it's already made. And if you have to have him lose, MJF to have him win fucking 2 or 3 weeks from now or whatever, or maybe even longer, maybe 6 weeks from now, it just feels like, what are we fucking doing? And I just hate it. It's like they can't help themselves, JC. They can't fucking do it correctly 2 weeks in a row. They cannot build momentum. They cannot build stars. They cannot build anything because they're too busy glad handing and making sure that the people love them than building a story or building superstars. They just can't fucking do it. They just can't. Consistently.
It's my frustrating thing with AEW because I thought they really turned a corner this year because a lot of stuff has been consistently better. They've had better long-term storytelling and stuff, but then you go and you get to a card like this and it's just like, what are we doing? It's just like it's like he picks these like tentpole shows and he tries to like do all this stuff and he makes it as convoluted as possible just to get the results so he can fucking tweet out the match graphic and be like, it's just like, dude, like, what are we doing? Like, it's so fucking frustrating. And honestly, as fucking annoying as it is, I have to watch fucking 3 AEW shows a week starting. Is it this weekend, by the way? The Collision, or is that
shit, I think it's next week. No, maybe it is this week.
I think it is this weekend, this Saturday. So it's just like, it honestly, though, it could help because we get so many of these fucking 8, 10 fucking 6-man tag matches because he's just trying to jam everyone in as opposed to giving them something meaningful. He's just trying to see how many fucking men he can stick in his clown car at one time. So I do think
how many men he can stick in his clown car.
I do think that Collision will be a good thing because it gives it more time to fucking separate this shit. But it's just at the same time.
Can we just make Collision shotgun Saturday night and have them wrestle in the subway? Because that's where we're gonna end up with this fucking shit. Like they're gonna wrestle in front of 500 people. Like that's what they're gonna do.
Can we spoil the comebacks for next week? Because I'm going to give mine to Miro, and you're going to give yours to CM Punk, and there you go. There's your comeback segment next week. Oh, wait, I'm not here next week. I forgot about that. So next week, JC's comeback on June 20th, I will be in another state, very drunk. My comeback goes to Miro. Machka!
You just blew it all over the goddamn place. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, we good? We want to get out of here?
Let's get the fuck out of here. I'm sweating.
I know, I can tell. On that note, thank you for listening to the Jobber Knocker. We'll be back next week. Well, I'll be back next week with more Jobber Knockery.
Woo!